Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, welcome to this episode here with me. My name is Dallin. It is great to spend some time with you. And if you're a federal employee, you are in a great spot to learn about your benefits, about retirement, about taxes, about your TSP, about investing, about insurance, about anything that has to do with your federal retirement and retiring confident and comfortable. This is where you learn all about that. And today is Saturday, at least when I'm publishing this. And so today is a Q&A episode where I answer your questions about federal benefits and any other topics I just mentioned, right? And so if you have any questions that you'd like to submit, there's a link below in the podcast description as well as the YouTube description to submit those through my website. And out of those questions is where I pull the questions for these Saturday episodes. So without further ado, we got 3 questions today. We're going to dive right in. Question number 1, short and sweet. It says, hey, does the necessity of having health insurance for 5 years before retirement also apply for vision and dental insurance? So this is a great question. So if you don't know, one of the best benefits you have is your health insurance. But to keep your health insurance into retirement, one of the requirements is that you have to be covered under a FEHB plan, a federal health insurance plan, for at least 5 years before you retire, okay? Now, that's only one of the requirements. There's a couple more requirements. I'm not going to dig into that right now. You can check out other videos for that. But long story short, this 5-year rule actually does not apply when we're talking about dental and vision insurance. And so that's great news. The only requirement that you have to keep dental and vision insurance into retirement is you have to retire with what they call an immediate retirement, okay? And when they say immediate retirement, all that means is that you have to be able to retire and be eligible to receive a pension right away. That is what an immediate retirement means, okay? So as a traditional FERS, that means you have to have at least be at your minimum retirement age and have 30 years of service, or at age 60 with 20 years, or age 62 with at least 5, or you can do an MRA plus 10 retirement. That's your minimum retirement age with at least 10 years of service. Again, there's other nuances that come with that one. Or if you are a special provisions FERS, then you have to be at least age 50 with 20 years of service, or have 25 years of service at any age. So if you meet any of those criteria, then you are eligible to retire with an immediate retirement, immediate pension, and therefore you are eligible to take your dental and vision insurance into retirement. And guess what? Maybe you don't have dental and vision insurance right now. No problem. As long as you retire with an immediate retirement, then even in retirement, you can hop on to dental and vision, right? You can change at any time, even if you're not covered during your career, as long as you're covered with an immediate retirement. Even in retirement or before retirement, you can hop in and out of the program, no problem. Okay, so that's question 1. Question number 2, they say, I am contributing the annual maximum to the TSP plus catch-up. Can I also contribute the annual maximum to an outside traditional IRA with a mutual fund company? So this is a great question as well. And actually, just a few weeks ago, I did a long article on this specific topic because it's a very common question, right? Where at your job, you have your TSP, your thrift savings plan. But there is also a investment or an account that you can use called an IRA, okay? And these are 2 different accounts. We have to keep them separate in our brain. Sometimes people use the TSP and an IRA interchangeably, but these are 2 different words, 2 different accounts, and you want to make sure you understand the differences, okay? So again, every time I do a piece of content, whether it's a Q&A, whether it's whatever it is, I always write an article. So if you go back to my website and you find the Q&A, the article written about today's Q&A, you can find a link. I'll put a link to the article I wrote a few weeks ago about whether or not you can use your TSP at work and an IRA. And the long story short, I'm going to summarize it here. If you want the full details, go check out that article, but I'm going to summarize it here. And that is, you can always use the TSP, no matter what your income level is. You can always use the thrift savings plan. Now, you can always put money into a traditional IRA, but once your income goes over certain limits, you can no longer deduct what you put into that IRA. Okay? And so again, if you want the income limits and everything, go check out that old article. And when we're talking about a Roth IRA, the rules are, again, a little different. Long story short is once your income goes over certain thresholds, you can no longer even put money directly into a Roth IRA. And you could potentially do a backdoor Roth IRA. That may, again, be closing here in 2022 because of the new tax law that is being passed. We'll have to wait to see how it actually ends up. But again, I'll be watching that for you. So that's question number 2. Again, if you want to learn more about using both an IRA and the TSP at the same time, definitely check out the article I wrote a few weeks ago. And the title of the article I have it right here, it's called "Can I Invest in the TSP and an IRA at the same at the same time?" So definitely check that out. Okay, so last question for today. This is a longer question, but I think it's valuable for many of you, so I'm going to read it all. They say, "I am eligible and I want to retire within about 6 months from my LEO, so my law enforcement officer federal job, and I am 55 years old. I have debt and a HELOC amounting to about $48,000. I have a $157,000 mortgage, and I'm considering a refinance to cover both my mortgage and my HELOC and debt, to kind of pull those all together into one debt." Okay, perfect. My home is currently worth about $320,000. I'm worried about taking on a new 30-year mortgage and don't want to have a mortgage for the rest of my life. And I only plan on staying in this home for about 3 to 5 years. When I sell my home, would it be feasible to have enough profit that I could afford a home with a smaller mortgage loan of approximately $100,000, with about $120,000 being paid into it from the profit of my current home sale? Okay, this is a great question. So let me summarize this situation as I understand it, okay? So right now, this person has a mortgage, right? But they also have a HELOC and some debt, some miscellaneous debts. And what they're thinking to do is to refinance their mortgage to cover, of course, their current mortgage, but also their HELOC and those debts, to kind of put it all into one, probably bring down the total interest that they're paying right now, and probably to save them money, right? Now, and then, of course, in 3 to 5 years, it sounds like they're going to be moving again. And then, of course, they'd get a smaller mortgage. Whatever profit they had from their current home sale would go into the new home. That's kind of the idea that I'm getting here. So there's a few things that I think about when I think about this question. Number 1, I'm going to actually have a list here. Okay. Number 1, the first thing to consider is the closing costs when you refinance. Okay, this is big. So it depends on what closing costs you're going to have, and these can vary quite dramatically. It could be $1,000, it could be $3,000, $4,000 that you're going to be paying in closing costs to get a mortgage initially or to do a refinance. So long story short, there's costs associated, right? And over time, especially if a refinance or a mortgage, if it lowers your interest rate, often it is worth it over time. But if you're not in the home long enough to recoup all those closing costs, then it may not actually be worth it to you to do it. Especially in this person's situation that said that question, and they said they're going to be moving in 3 to 5 years. And so I would be very careful before doing this refinance to know, okay, what exactly is my best guess for the closing costs? And how quickly am I going to recoup that? What is the savings? Again, I don't have any information about what interests they're going to be saving, their HELOC, their other debt. I have no clue on any of those. So if this is your question, or if you have a similar situation, make sure, okay, what is the closing cost? What is my monthly savings for doing the refinance, right? And that leads me to the second point is, okay, this person, they explain this, hey, I don't want to have a mortgage forever, but they didn't really come up with, they didn't, at least in their question, mention any plan to really have a mortgage paid off within less than 30 years, right? So, and there's a couple ways to do it. Of course, you can have a 15-year mortgage, right? You could do something like you have shorter terms. You can pay it off quickly over time, right? But since this person is retiring, they want to make sure they have a plan in place before they stop working. Because, of course, you have some flexibility with your TSP and the income that you're going to have, and this person's 55, so relatively young for a retiree, right? So they'll have some options, but they don't want to paint themselves into a corner, because it's honestly, once you retire, it is a lot harder, I think, emotionally and mentally to have to go back to work. It's often a lot easier to just keep working until you're done, that you can afford to retire. You can afford to have the home and the mortgage and the thing that you want without any issues, right? Number 3, in this situation, so they're planning to, of course, take a refinance now and then 3 to 5 years later to purchase another home. And they're really hoping to have a certain mortgage level at that time. And that may happen perfectly, I'm not sure. But I just wanted to mention that over the last couple of years, right now when I'm filming this, it is December of 2021. And in 2021, the real estate market has been crazy, where just within a year almost, some homes have risen $100, $200, even $300,000 worth of value because it is so difficult to find homes right now, and everyone is trying to buy them. There's a huge demand that prices have gone up. And so my one point to you is, okay, don't count on that, right? Home prices may continually steadily go up. I'm not sure. They may drop. We don't know. So just make sure you have some wiggle room in your plan. So even if the market drops or whatever it is, that you're still going to be okay. You could still afford to retire and all those things, that there's still wiggle room in your plan to make it all work. So those are the questions for today. Again, if you have any questions yourself, there's a link below to submit those through our website. And if this is valuable for you, we are really trying to make a push through the end of the year to get as many people, as many federal employees, this information as we possibly can. We're trying to spread the word. We're trying to get it out so for you, your coworkers, and everyone in the federal space, they know how to retire on their own terms. That is our goal. So again, if you find value in here, please consider subscribing. If you're on the podcast, please leave us a review. It helps us out a ton, and again, helps us spread the word. So have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.